15 of the Spread, NESN.com's Football Picks video podcast. Feels like we've done this before, but we're here for to make some NFL picks.
Presented by what?
Oh, it's presented by NESN.com. So,
Excellent job.
Yeah, they really
holding this thing together.
Yeah.
Glue, if you will.
Really bringing it together. I'm NESN.com's Mike Cole. That's Ricky Doyle. That's Andre Kachaturian. We'll make our football picks for the 3 biggest games of the weekend. Do a little locks, upsets, teasers, parlays, a little show and tell. And we'll get out of here, hopefully quicker than usual. But we'll see.
I think we got this down. You know, we did rehearsals this week.
Yeah, that's true. We did a dry run already. Andre,
walkthrough.
Andre, start us off with the records. From
last week I'm going to flex my muscles because I had a fantastic week, 10-5-1, getting my 93rd win of the season. Mike, you went 8-7-1. He's coming in second. You got your 90th win. And Ricky, usually you're so dominant in this in the spread, but you only went 7-8-1. You did get your 97th win. You're only 3 wins away from the number 100. What are you gonna do to celebrate?
I mean, listen, I'm not gonna get complacent here. You know, you gotta take it one game at a time. What if that 100th win never comes?
Yeah, I mean,
We'll be sitting here eating crow.
What if tomorrow never comes?
That would be quite a.
It's another can of. I don't want to go down that avenue, you know.
But I mean, yeah, you're still on the top of the mountain, though. So.
But it would be nice to get the century mark, you know.
I am 4 games behind you, so you
Heading
better
into the
watch out.
postseason.
You better not cry. All right.
Is that it?
Yeah. I don't know the rest of the words.
All right. I thought you were going all in. All right, let's get to the first game of the weekend. We'll start Sunday afternoon. Detroit coming off another, lucky, I'll say it, win against Chicago. I mean, I guess
battle tested.
At a certain point, yeah, I guess we could have the debate about what is lucky, but I mean, beating the Bears late kind of screams luck to me. But hey, whatever, good for them. They're 9-4, as are the New York Giants, who are hosting this game. Giants 4.5-point favorites, as far as I know, unless that changed in the last day. But the first time we did this, they were 4.5-point favorites. So, it's down to 4. Excuse me, 4 points now. So I like that even more. But Ricky, why don't you start it off?
I like the Giants, and a lot of it is based on what you mentioned, the luck factor there. You got to think that at some point this is going to come back to bite them, and this seems like a week that could happen. 12 of the 13 games for the Lions, they faced a fourth quarter deficit going against a Giants team whose defense is playing pretty well. You know when they play the best? In the fourth quarter. A very good team at closing out games. I also look at the Matthew Stafford situation, dealing with that finger injury. We can sit here, we'll probably look up the forecast. It changes every day, but
it has changed.
But it could be cold, it could be wet at MetLife Stadium. If so, that finger issue could come into play. Make the Lions a little more one-dimensional, which isn't a good thing when you're going up against a Giants team that's got a pretty good run defense. Not to mention, the Lions, their running back situation is a little dicey. The rushing attack's been terrible this year. Yeah. I don't even know what they have for healthy backs right now. I think it's Joik Bell. I think you could probably get him on the fantasy waiver wire if you want. Every year since 1995. So everything just screams Giants.
Barry Sanders days, huh?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, Ricky.
He was change of pace back.
All right, let me tell you something, Ricky. I have a lot of respect for you. You're a good guy, but over here you're extremely wrong. You're extremely wrong here. Let me tell you something about the Giants' offense. They've been struggling to move the ball as of late, despite their solid run. Averaging 4.5 yards per play in the last 3 games. That's behind Jacksonville, Cleveland, and Los Angeles. That's horrible company. They haven't cracked the 400-yard mark in a game since week 6. And anytime you're giving me points with the Lions, I'm going to take it. The Lions, every single one of their games this season has been decided, aside from one, has been decided by 7 points or less. So you're giving me points, I'm going to take the Lions. And, the weather's going to be a little dicey. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a little rainy. I think Eli Manning's going to struggle with that more so than Matt Stafford.
He's not playing so spectacular anymore?
Not anymore. He's not brilliant
You're jumping off that
and also, I think the Giants' defense looked really good last week against the Dallas Cowboys, mostly because Dak Prescott, it was freezing weather for an SEC quarterback. I don't think he handled that very well.
Okay, so it's freezing weather for an SEC quarterback.
Yeah. Rookie SEC quarterback.
Where did Matt Stafford go to college?
Doesn't matter. He's an experienced guy. He's played in cold games.
Yeah, he is. He's experienced and played in cold games. What was it coming into this season or last year? What did he go, they went 5 years without winning a game on the road. Like, they don't win on the road.
Yeah, but
They
this year
haven't
they're
played
winning
outside
them.
at all.
They've played twice outside.
You're right.
Since
But guess
week 4,
what?
I
If it's a
believe.
close game, I'm going to take the points. And you're calling the Matt Stafford thing a luck factor? 8 comeback wins, 8 fourth-quarter game-winning drives. Oh, that's luck? That's skill. Matt Stafford's a tough guy. I don't care about his finger. One time, he led the Lions down the field with the shoulder, dislocated shoulder, and scored a game-winning touchdown early in his career. He's a tough guy. He's a little Ben Roethlisberger in them. I like Matt Stafford.
I was hoping that you'd mention the shoulder injury. The shoulder injury, a lot different. It might seem more like a bigger deal than just a small little finger. It's hard to grip a football with a broken finger or a dislocated finger. And when you add in rain, it's even tougher. It's not that he can't manage the pain. It's that it literally affects how he does his job. And we saw that in the second half last week after he hurt that finger. That pick 6 he threw, horrible throw. One of the worst throws he's made in a long time. So I think the weather combined with the finger kind of makes it a little bit more difficult for him to throw the ball. They can't run the ball. I don't know how they score points in this game. And again, you look at, you talk about how the Giants' offense has been poor over the last 3 games. You cite the yards per play. Is that what you did, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, 3 teams, Miami, Philly, and Los Angeles, have allowed more points per game. More yards per play. That's it over the last 3 weeks than Detroit. That defense isn't very good either, so they're going to give Eli Manning a chance. And I still think that either the Giants score on defense or they get a big turnover that puts that offense in a position to succeed, or they get 2. I think field position is a huge thing. I think the Giants find a way to win that because I think their defense is better. They're playing at home.
Rainy
I think
weather.
that makes the difference.
Eli Manning, he turned the ball over. Let me tell you something. Giants, 4th in the league in giveaways this year with 24. Lions don't turn the ball over. Only 10 giveaways, which is the 4th fewest. They're excellent protecting the ball. I think that's going to be a factor. You said turnovers are going to be. I think that's going to help the Lions, especially in the rainy condition.
Cold weather, finger issue.
Don't
Just
trust
ask Derek
Eli
Carr
Manning.
how difficult that can
no
be.
kidding.
If you want to,
But it's not
check
freezing temperatures. It's going to be 40 degrees, a little rainy, and I think that's going to hurt Eli more.
Potentially more of an issue. The ball gets slippery.
Exactly. So Eli's going to throw picks. He's going to fumble the ball.
I'm taking the guy who's played his entire career in New York, who's gone on the road and won in places like Green Bay, over a guy who can't win in Green Bay.
They can't move the ball. Haven't cracked the 400-yard
They've gone
mark since
outside.
week 6.
They've gone outside twice this season, as Ricky mentioned. They've played 2 games outside all season, and they went 0-2.
That's nice.
And that was in the middle of Indian summer in the Midwest, where it was like 63 degrees in Green Bay and then 65 degrees the next week in Chicago.
All right.
They got
so
their
at the end of the
asses
day, we're
handed
arguing
to
about
them.
which offense is worse. And if it's going to be a close game, give me the points, Lions in the close
No,
game.
we're
They
not. That's
always
not
cover.
necessarily what
They
we're
always
arguing
cover.
about because the Giants' defense is so much better than Detroit's defense. Anyway,
I just don't see how they move the ball. It's just
yeah.
I just don't see it.
They get the ball. Stafford puts it in his hand. He throws it. Someone catches it.
I don't know. A little too one-dimensional going into this game for my
All right,
liking.
let's move forward. That was a healthy debate.
Sunday afternoon, Tennessee. Big win for them last week. Hosted. They've beat a few good teams at home this year. For which I was in attendance one. That was not fun. But they beat the Packers already. Yeah, I know. They beat Denver last week at home. Now they got to go on the road. Titans travel to Kansas City. It's supposed to be frigid. They're taking on the Chiefs. Chiefs are, they were 5-point favorites. I probably should have double-checked this before we came out here. I think it's still 5. It is 5. Chiefs 5-point favorites at home against Tennessee. Andre, why don't you start us off?
Listen, it's going to be 9 degrees in Kansas City, as you mentioned, frigid temperatures. Where's Marcus Mariota from? He's from Melikilikimaka land, Hawaii. So he's probably never seen on the bright.
You don't like that song.
Mike doesn't like that song. Let me tell you who's not going to like the weather. It's Marcus Mariota. I don't think he's ever seen. Let me tell you, give my pick here.
Oh, I know what it feels like.
Yeah, I know how it feels like, Mike. No wonder you're so disgruntled every week.
All right, go ahead.
So it's going to be very cold. Marcus Mariota, I think. Derek Carr struggled. He was a Fresno native. He is a Fresno native. He struggled in that frigid temperature last week. He went 17 of 41, only 117 yards. I think Marcus Mariota, who went 6 for 20 last week, he's going to have a similar type of game. He's going to struggle. So I see the Chiefs, with their great defense chasing around Marcus Mariota. They're gonna force some turnovers. They're 3rd in the league in turnover differential, and they're gonna win the game and cover by a lot of points.
All right. Well, I bet against the Titans last week. I'm not going to do it again this week, and a lot of it boils down to the Titans are a team that I really like when I'm getting points. Last week when they were the home favorites against Denver, I didn't really like them all that much. But now if you're going to give me that many points against the Kansas City team, listen, I love Kansas City. We say this week after week. We talk about their turnover differential and how they're just kind of It looked like a team that are built to have some playoff success here. That being said, losing Derek Johnson is a huge blow to them, particularly in the run game, which is where Tennessee thrives. I mean, that 1-2 combo of DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry is one of the best in football. I could see them causing some problems to the Kansas City run defense. If there is an issue with that Chiefs defense, which I admit is good, sits there, it passes the eyeball test, at least as far as I'm concerned. But they are 27th against the run this year, so there are some holes with Johnson in the fold. Now that you don't have Johnson in the mix, that only compounds the issue. Titans take care of the football, so I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to capitalize as much as they would against an inferior team. I don't know. The other factors are outweighing that for me this week.
All right.
Overall, I just like the fact that I'm getting points in this game.
The flying Hawaiian.
More than a field goal, too.
Marcus Mariota, maybe, look it up. In his college career, spent 3 seasons at Oregon. In games, these are the coldest weather games he played in. At Oregon State, at Utah, at Washington State, at Colorado, at Washington, at Oregon State, at Washington State. 7 games over the course of 3 years, he won them all. Anyway,
cool.
You mentioned that
it wasn't 9 degrees in any of those
games. You
games.
sit here and you make these claims you went to Oregon and who knows, he's from Hawaii, who knows if he played in cold weather. It's well, he at least has some experience. At least, Again, I don't know how you can sit here
Carr played some cold weather games
make
in college
the excuses
as well.
for Matt Stafford and then say that it's one is not equal to the other.
9 degrees is much different than 40 degrees, dude.
Oh my God. Anyway, it's not going to matter because as Ricky said, the run defense is an issue for Kansas City. It's an even bigger issue for Kansas City without Derek Johnson, as Ricky also mentioned. I got some numbers here for you. Last Thursday night, it was frigid, and Chiefs hosted Oakland. Before Derek Johnson got hurt, the Raiders ran the ball 10 times for 26 yards. After he got hurt, they ran the ball 21 times for 109 yards. Before the injury, 2.6 yards per carry. After the injury, 5.2 yards per carry. They literally doubled their yards per carry after he got hurt. Also, in this, I should have mentioned this earlier, we're getting all of our lines from OddsShark, and OddsShark has also hooked us up with a lot of trends. It goes to oddshark.com to see all of those. A couple good ones I like here. Kansas City's 2-7 against the spread in its last 9 home games. They're also 1-5 in the last 6 games, favored by 3.5 to 10 points. That's against the spread. And when they're favored by 3.5 to 10 points at home, they're 3-11-1 in the last 15 games, favored by that amount of numbers. So, I look at the matchup, I look at the numbers, I like.
To me, it feels like a little bit of a trap game, maybe too.
That too.
Looking ahead to the Broncos next week, Titans not a team that you can necessarily overlook. Obviously they're in the playoff picture, and you need as such you need to take them seriously. But at the same time, if you're looking towards a divisional game against the Broncos, which is going to have huge implications, obviously, maybe get a little complacent this week.
Yeah, maybe.
At home.
9 degrees.
Just another thing to factor in there. I don't know.
Speaking of the Broncos. And speaking of cold weather issues, we'll get to something here in a little bit. The Broncos hosting the Patriots. Big game this weekend, AFC Championship rematch. The Patriots coming off a nice Monday night win, pretty thorough, aside from a couple special team gaffes. Thorough win against a good Baltimore team. Denver limps home after losing to the Titans last week. We already talked about that. And as such, the Patriots are 3-point favorites. It looks like... not a lot of love for the Broncos right now, despite some recent success at home against New England. Again, Patriots 3-point favorites. Ricky, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, them traveling to Denver scares the crap out of me. I'll admit that. Recent history has shown, obviously, 1-6 straight up and against the spread in Denver since 2005. But at the same time, I just look at this individual matchup, and the Broncos, their defense, it's good, obviously, but it's not as otherworldly as last year. And you can particularly beat them on the ground. To me, this seems like a game where LeGarrette Blount, you pound the rock, maybe give it to him 30 times, and he just kind of slices and dices his way, and Brady picks the spots. Again, like I said, it does scare me the fact that the Patriots are giving up points on the road in Denver. But from a matchup standpoint, you look at the Broncos defense, for example. Allowed 140 or more yards on the ground only once last season, and that was in mid-September. It's already happened to them 5 times this year, and this is including last week against the Titans, who pretty much just gashed them for the better part of 2 quarters at least. So I don't know. Everything's pointing to the Patriots for me in this particular matchup. Although if you factor in history, I am a little worried about it. But
history is history.
Yeah,
you're history. Right. The past doesn't dictate
trends are meant to be
present.
Bucked.
Yes, exactly. But except for this trend, isn't going to be bucked.
Okay.
Bill Belichick against rookie quarterbacks and inexperienced quarterbacks. or quarterbacks in their first season. The last 5 he's faced, Jared Goff, a win. He stunk in that game. It was very recent. Landry Jones, a win. Cody Kessler, he knocked him out of the game. Brock Osweiler, who's in his first full season with the Texans, a win. And that was with, I think that was with Brissett, correct?
Yeah.
And then Marcus Mariota, a win. And they knocked him out last year. So anytime you give me Bill Belichick against a young quarterback, and Trevor Siemian's that young quarterback this week, I'm going to take Bill Belichick. And as you mentioned, I love the ground attack for the Patriots this year, and they're going to be in Denver, whose defense isn't as good as it was last year. It's a huge revenge game too. They lost in the AFC Championship. They lost in that huge regular season game last year, which determined home field. And the Patriots are going to be awake for this one. They're fired up. They're going to come out there, blow the Broncos out of the water, and take this one easily.
Yeah, make it a clean sweep. Andre, you would have loved to read the latest by our good friend John Campbell at Oddshark, Johnny Oddshark.
I like Johnny Oddshark.
You probably should have had a little bit of this. He's got a great story out Wednesday about the teams playing in the cold, and a lot of stuff that backs up your point from earlier. But there's one thing he did mention. Denver's the worst bet in the cold. Broncos actually 3-7-1 in the last 11 games, and the temperature's 32 degrees or cooler. Let me just double check this real quick as I kick off. It's about to be 33 degrees. I mean, really, we're splitting hairs at that point.
So brought a thermometer this week is show and tell.
Surprisingly, well, I mean, it's that time of year, weather starts to affect things. Although they are 8-3 in those games, so it's a little bit of maybe that's not the greatest stat to use to reinforce our point, but we really don't need trends to reinforce this point. The matchup really speaks for itself. You guys kind of touched on a lot of things. Again, I think I look at the run game. That's the biggest thing for me this week in a lot of these games, and then especially in this game. Patriots running the ball real well. LeGarrette Blount looks like a new man. They carved up that Baltimore run defense, which was ranked number 1 in all of the NFL. And now they got a Denver team that's not very good against the run, as you mentioned. It's a Denver defense that's banged up as well. They could be without 2 of their starting inside linebackers, Brandon Marshall, who's a great player, and Todd Davis, who's actually probably an underrated player. Those guys could both be out this week with injuries. If that's the case, I mean, this could get real ugly because I think it's just the Patriots just running up the middle and take their chances doing that. I think that's how you kind of slow down this game. And if they get off to like a 10, 14-point lead, there's no way Trevor Siemian's leading the comeback against them. And again, you look at this. I don't know how much stock you want to put it in this, but this is something I thought that was real interesting. I think the Patriots have had a run game resurgence this year with Dante Scarnecchia coming out of retirement as the offensive line coach. I mean, the results speak for themselves. Again, you look at a guy, like Marcus Cannon, who's like a new player with Scar back. So I went back and looked at it. I was interested to see what have the Patriots done with Scarnecchia, the offensive line coach, against Denver. This dates back to about 2011, so it's a little bit dated. But the last 5 games, playoffs and regular season, against Denver, with Scarnecchia as the offensive line coach, the Patriots have run for 718 yards total in those 4 games. That's 143.6 yards per game. And again, you talk about the Siemian thing. I think having, the Denver offense was trash last year and they still beat the Patriots. I think a lot of that was because Peyton Manning, despite his diminishing skills, he's still smart up here. Yep. I'm not saying Simeon's a dummy, but I just think that,
you can't compare it to.
Yeah, and I think the Patriots probably are able to devise a game plan that confuses him a little bit easier than they did against Peyton Manning.
Yeah, and you look at the Broncos, they have the third most 3-and-outs in football this year, and that's right behind the 49ers and the Rams. So that just tells you where their offense is. They're going to punt the ball a lot. Patriots run the ball with Blunt, control time of possession. I think time of possession is going to be a huge factor in this one.
They're asking Travis Siemian to do way too much in that offense, and a lot of it stems back from the fact that, I talked a little bit about how the Broncos' run defense is their rushing attack isn't good either. I mean, it's pretty much been non-existent ever since C.J. Anderson went down. Devontae Booker not really giving them what they want. So that's obviously backing them in their corner, making them a little one-dimensional. And if Simeon's going to throw the ball 50 times, that's a little dicey.
Did you see Emmanuel Sanders' touchdown celebration last week?
Yeah, the pitch.
He did a pitch, and then he got a 15-yard penalty. He started arguing. It's like, why did you do it?
That was a fun game. We'll get to that game a little bit more later.
He might be the best pitcher in the Rockies.
Yeah, definitely. Denver averaging 3.3 yards per carry the last 3 weeks to kind of back up your point. So
Patriots also, they take care of the football.
Yep.
So the Broncos, when they're at their best, is when that defense is forcing turnovers. And then the forgotten facet of the game here, special teams, I don't see the Patriots laying another egg this week.
Devin Hester makes his Patriots debut this Sunday.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Let the speculation begin.
If he does, he'll score like a really big touchdown at some point. It'll just drive me nuts. Anyway, We'll start with locks, and Andre, why don't you kick it off?
All right, my lock of the week. I love the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC North showdown. Let me tell you, the Steelers' pass rush is night and day in the last 4 weeks compared to the first 10 weeks of the season. Last 4 weeks, they have 18 sacks in the last 4 games, and they only had 13. Sorry, they only had 10 in the first. No, wait, I got this all wrong. They had 18 sacks in the last 4 weeks, and they had 13 in the first 10 weeks. So in that long period of time, they only had sacks. And then in the last 4 weeks, they have a lot. So it's like their pass rush has come alive. And they're also, this is so disorganized.
You were just typing fast and furious. The thoughts are just coming in your head. And you just have to
anyway,
down on
long story short, they're getting a lot of sacks in the last 4 weeks, and they're playing the Bengals, who, as a team, they've allowed 36 sacks, which is the 5th most in the league. So not a good offensive line, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on Andy Dalton. And the Bengals allow 4.5 rush yards per carry. That's 26 in the league. Le'Veon Bell, the last 4 games, 823 total yards. I don't see how they're going to stop that guy, especially with their crappy rush defense. So Dalton's going to get hit in the mouth. Bell's going to get a lot of yards. It's going to be it's only, a 3-point spread, too, around there, 3.5 points. I like the Steelers in this one.
Peanuts.
Ricky.
My lock, I'm taking the Packers over the Bears. Green Bay opened up as 4-point favorites. That's since climbed to 6.5 as of this recording.
Yep.
I might even go up a little bit more. I don't know. I jump on that. It basically boils down to 2 words: Aaron Rodgers. He's playing out of his mind ever since basically saying they had to win out. I think they are going to win out. And on the flip side, you get the Bears. I'll give Matt Barkley a little bit of credit. He's been playing better than what I expected, but that's basically because I had 0 expectations whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's all relative. I just don't see how the Bears keep up in this game. Green Bay finding a little bit of a rushing attack too, so that's just another added element there to their already dynamic offense. Obviously.
Yeah, the Bears' defense is good. A lot of people make a big deal out of it. The run defense kind of faltered a little bit over the last few weeks, and now the Packers might have a run offense. I like that pick too. For my
Montgomery, big game this week.
Yeah, I think so, and they're going to have to because you want to talk about cold. It's going to be about 5 or 6 degrees with wind in Chicago on Sunday. My lock, I'll take Oakland. They're up to 3-point favorites on the road against San Diego.
Love this pick, though.
The Chargers, everybody's hurt. Like, almost literally everybody's hurt. Melvin Gordon went down with a knee injury last week. Joey Bosa hurt his neck. I mean, obviously, we've talked all season about their injury issues. For the most part, they've been able to kind of, tread water. They're not going to the playoffs, but they've been a respectable team. I think this is a bad spot for them because I think you're going to get a real pissed-off Raiders team coming off of a bad divisional loss. The Raiders have 10 days to prepare for this one. And that's, again, you're going up against a banged-up team. That's all you can really ask for. Oakland doesn't like going and playing in cold weather conditions. What better place to land than San Diego?
Yep.
62 and sunny this week. Also, per the OddsShark trends, the Raiders 6-1 in the last 7 games on the road. 6-1 against the spread in the last 7 on the road against San Diego. 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 overall. It's pretty good. So
they have the number.
Talked all year about San Diego's injury issues. I feel like all decade. I feel like year after year they seem to have some problems out there.
There's a few teams like that, but yeah, they're probably the leader in the clubhouse. Upsets.
Am I upset? I'm gonna. Am I starting?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I just.
You might as well. You might as well just gone with it.
If you want to jump at the opportunity.
Rude and disrespectful.
No. You're a go-getter. I like that.
I'm going to take the Jaguars over the Texans in the AFC South, which I think this is a toilet bowl, even though it features a first-place team. Texans minus 45 point differential. That's all you need to know about them. And if it's the one thing the Jaguars do well, they don't do much. They don't do anything. But if it's one thing they do well is they're a very good defensive team, surprisingly. They only allow 5 yards per play, 5th best in the league. And, the Texans don't really force turnovers. So I think Blake Bortles kind of makes a couple big plays to Allen Robinson and Marquise Lee to get a couple touchdowns, and they steal one. And here's another interesting stat I say this every week about the Texans pass rush. Without J.J. Watt, this year only a 4.9 sack percentage this year compared to 7.5% last year with J.J. Watt. So he's been a massive you can sense his absence.
Right.
Cool.
All right.
That makes sense. Sense his absence.
Sure. Yeah, whatever.
His absence is visible.
Sure.
What's the word? The phrase for it? Teach me your.
I don't know what you're talking
Teach me your
about.
way.
Like if someone's there and he's
Teach
not
me your
there.
grammar.
Yeah.
Noticeable?
His absence has been noticeable. Yeah.
All right. Well,
That's what I meant to
my
say.
upset, and this might piss you off a little bit, as the Cowboys enthusiast and supporter that you are.
I have a feeling I'm going to agree with you.
But I like the Bucs 7-point
agree with you.
underdogs against the Cowboys. I just looked at that defense is playing great right now. The team's on a roll. The offense has left a little out there. I mean, I think you see the potential here and there, but they could get a little bit more from Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, and company. But basically, this boils down to the defense. Coming off a week in which the Cowboys' offense struggled a little bit, finally saw some flaws from Dak Prescott. This coming from CBS, they do their picks column every week. I found a few stats interesting here from the Bucs. They've allowed only 12.8 points per game. They forced 14 turnovers, and opposing quarterbacks have averaged a 62.5 QB rating against the Bucs defense over the last 5 weeks. Number one in all three of those categories in that span. Basically, to me, this just strikes me as Bucs defense is playing well. Cowboys offense is showing some flaws. Add them together, you get yourself a nice little upset, even though it's at Jerry World.
If I'm not mistaken, the Bucs have the number 2 third down defense in the league. Cowboys the last 2 weeks, 2 for 24 combined on
There you
third
go.
down. So get it done on first and second down, they'll be in a position
I
to
think
win.
if there's a quarterback switch by Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here we go.
I hope
That's
so.
We'll save that.
I got you.
You know, although it's going to be interesting to see if Dak Prescott struggles this week, what conversation we're having next week.
Listen, I think for Dallas, they want him to struggle this week because long term, you're not going to win the Super Bowl with a 23-year-old. It just doesn't happen every day.
Okay. Anyway.
We'll stick a pin in this
Yeah, no kidding.
one. For the sake of time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For once. Carolina, 4.5-point road underdogs on Monday night. I'm going to take the Panthers. I looked at this game and said, oh, wow, Washington's playing a Monday night game, primetime game. And I thought to myself, doesn't feel like the Redskins play very well when they're playing in primetime. So I Googled the Redskins primetime record or something. Literally the second thing in Google, the headline reads, quote, the Redskins' record in primetime games is as bad as you thought, end quote. So
You really didn't need to read anymore.
I don't even know if that's confirmation bias. That's
Confirm your
just
suspicions
literally
right away.
confirmation. Redskins 6-20 in primetime since the start of 2008 season. They did win their one primetime game this year, Sunday night game against Green Bay. But that game, for the sake of my argument, I'm going to throw it out because Green Bay was just trash and banged up, and just two different teams now, or at least one different team. Carolina beats up on bad defenses, or at least they have in the last 7 games. They're 4-3 in the last 7, which I thought was kind of surprising. 3 losses came against Kansas City, Oakland, Seattle, 3 decent defenses. Washington, nobody, including myself, is going to call them a decent defense. In the 4 wins, that 7-game stretch, the Panthers scored 23 points per game, 23-point-something points per game. So I like them to put up some points, keep it close, and find, maybe they, at some point, Jay Gruden and Kirk Cousins turn into a pumpkin or whatever the Cinderella thing is. Jay Gruden kind of looks like a pumpkin. So, I'll take that's going to be insufferable, huh? The Gruden boys on Monday night. Going to be a lot of Gruden talk. But, give me the Panthers. All right, let's do props, parlays, teasers, whatever you got.
I want to start this one.
go
I'm very
ahead.
excited.
Sure.
Listen, every week I love to talk about the Buffalo Bills pass rush. I'm going to talk about the Bills pass rush again this week. I predict 10 sacks by the Bills pass rush against the Cleveland Browns this week. The Bills have the 3rd best sack percentage in football, 7.2%. They're going up against the Browns, whose quarterbacks, they've had like 8 quarterbacks this year, or 80 quarterbacks. Doesn't matter how many quarterbacks they've had because their line isn't protecting them. They've been sacked 48 times this year. That's the most. RG3's going to get hit in the mouth so many times. This might be the game he gets another injury. So that's my prop bet of the week if you can find it.
Well, let's make
You
it.
love that sack percentage.
I love it.
Bills in particular. You get your ticker in your room of
Every
the
week.
Bills sack percentage. It's like the stock market watch, and
They're not
and
even
you
number
bring it
one.
to the table.
It's just something about Lorenzo Alexander and
I love it.
Your commitment to this show today is something else.
Thank you.
We'll discuss more off screen, but you're committed today. I like it.
I'm all in.
I'm
always all in.
Why don't you give us
Pedal to the metal.
your parlay or whatever you're doing?
So that being said, I'm gonna throw my picks at you. I love the locks. Stick with the lock, the Packers lock. Love your Raiders pick for all the reasons you mentioned. I'm not even gonna go over that because you're just a very smart guy, and I don't really need to rehash any of the points that you made. I also love the Dolphins. 3-point favorites. Might even be down to 2.5.
Sorry, this guy's looking at the pictures of mascots on USA.
Well, you gotta get a
Sports
beat on the
Television.
accompanying photo.
He's
of
been
this,
looking at these mascots for
I'm
about
working.
10 minutes now.
He's a step ahead of the game.
It's great though. It's just, I'm trying to focus on just saying it. I'm seeing.
Well, and the first one I saw
Viking
that I looked over
mascot.
was the Dolphin mascot. Tremendous mascot, by the way. Anyways, I
Sorry.
like them over the Jets. I think it's down to 2.5 now, I believe. The Jets, even though they had their win over the Niners, just kind of, I still look at them in disarray a little bit. Mixed results from Bryce Petty and his first start as an NFL QB. I like the Saints Cardinals over 50. Two teams that can light up the scoreboard, and if we want to stick with Thursday night, under 38.5 for the Seahawks Rams. And
There's a cheerleader hosing down the mascot.
it seems we have real issues.
We have to put this up so they.
I know,
That one in particular.
That one, yeah.
That's
Good parlay.
Yeah, thanks. I'm done. Go ahead.
I'm doing a teaser, 4-team, 7-point teaser. Give me the LA Rams on Thursday night, getting 22.
Funny, I thought you would screw that up.
Yeah, I thought-
History is showing that.
I wrote it
St.
down this time.
Louis a lot.
I had St. Louis in my notes, but I wrote it down to LA. I like them getting 22. I'm not sure if anybody scores 22 points in that game. Tampa Bay plus 14, Green Bay plus a half a point, and Carolina plus 12. We already talked about Tampa Bay, Carolina, Green Bay, and again, I like LA. That's a lot of points. Whatever. Cool. Show and tell.
All right. Well, since we mentioned LA, since we mentioned the Rams, I'll kick it off.
Go ahead.
That's a seamless
Unless anybody's
transition.
chomping at the bit over there. And I got some khakis. I got some nice, some Dockers. I pulled these out of the old closet today. And it's because Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, they're out of your closet, not off your legs.
He's still wearing.
You're wearing
This is good.
pants.
Yeah, I have pants on.
You're wearing
Okay,
pants.
I'll prove that at the end of the show by standing up.
Let's
And
just stand up now and prove it.
all right. So I am wearing pants. We can confirm that. So I think we're looking at 3. But so anyways, the khakis. Jim Harbaugh. Big fan of the khakis, he is. Well, now I'm talking like Yoda, apparently. Big fan of the khakis, he is. He needs to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, not the St. Louis Rams, the Los Angeles Rams. Otherwise, they might have to just deport them back to St. Louis. That team's in shambles. They need an identity after firing Jeff Fisher. I feel like Harbaugh's the guy that can come in there, give you a little zest, a little spunk to a team that's just kind of boring, bland, whatever. So get him in there. I don't know if he wants to leave Michigan. He probably doesn't. All reports seems like he's got a pretty good gig going over there. But
he's blaming the any stories that he might be interested in
Right.
his rivals.
But
Talking a little jive turkey.
a lot of this is just the football fan of me because I think there's a lot of good storylines if he was to go out there. I mean, obviously facing the 49ers 2 times a year, a team that he kind of had a weird breakup with. Just going back to California in general, obviously coach college there, so it's just a lot of storylines.
A couple of matchups against Pete Carroll too.
the Pete Carroll rivalry. A lot you can sink your teeth into. It would be good for the NFL. So I want him to be the guy, him to toss on the khakis on the Rams sideline next season.
All right, there you go, mine. All right, this is
I'll find a way to bring in jeans
very
next
horrible
week.
country song. It's called "Roller Coaster" from Bryan. It's a very mediocre song. You know who else is mediocre? You know who else is on the roller coaster right now throughout his entire NFL career? Is Russell Wilson. Let me tell you something about Russell Wilson. This guy, let me pull up the stats. Unfortunately, I hadn't pulled them up. I'm not prepared right now. Let me pull them up because it's some horribly mediocre stats. Before I pull up this season's stats, so you got to know that Russell Wilson, even in the Super Bowl years, first couple seasons, everybody's like, oh my God, Russell Wilson, the next greatest thing. He was always in the lower, in the bottom of the league in terms of pass attempts, which means the Seahawks were relying on guys like Marshawn Lynch and an elite defense to win games. He was never the focal point of this team's success. But people were still calling him a top 10 quarterback. He's not a top 10 quarterback. This song, Luke Bryan's not a top 10 country singer. He's a horrible country singer, Mike. I'm
Not
sure you
good,
agree.
yeah.
You're a country music connoisseur. And look at this about Russell Wilson. Speaking of roller coasters, first 4 weeks, 4 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, pretty solid. Next 3 weeks, no touchdowns and a pick. The next 3 weeks after that, 6 touchdowns, no picks, so he's at the top again. And then the last 3 weeks, he's collapsed. 2 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. You're calling this guy a top 10 quarterback? I'm sorry, I'm done with mediocrity.
There you go.
Wow.
Don't accept. No, you don't need to accept mediocrity.
No.
Should you?
There's so many other good quarterbacks out there. Give me those guys. Give me Derek Carr. Give me Tony Romo. Give me Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford.
I was gonna say, I don't know if there's so many good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's a good
That was
quarterback.
good.
Yeah.
Cody Kessler.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Eli Manning. Yeah, so we already talked about the Titans Broncos game a little bit. That was a chippy affair. I don't know if you guys watched that game, but got real ugly when Titans wide receiver Harry Douglas, once a fantasy darling, now just nobody in Nashville, went after.
Sounds like a nice country album.
Yeah,
nobody in Nashville.
Harry Douglas was he in Atlanta before?
Yeah, it was a great fantasy.
He was a great Madden guy because
Yeah.
he was like the primary target for Michael Vick, and when you used to be able to draft Vick and run around.
Harry
Madden.
Douglas?
I believe so. Yeah.
He hasn't been around that
I was
long.
gonna say that seems.
I don't know, man.
questionable, but hey, whatever.
No.
Anyway,
That was a Brian Finneran days.
Yeah, Brian Finneran, he was up there too.
Harry Douglas has been around since 2008.
2008. So yeah, sure, why not? All right. Once again, thanks guys. Hijacking my segment. So Harry Douglas went after Chris Harris Jr. Took a dive at his knees, real dirty hit. Chris Douglas left the game. Eventually came back. Started a nice little brawl. Aqib Talib, not surprisingly, in the middle of it. But the real story came after the game, where Aqib Talib at his locker was not happy with Harry Douglas. Says it was a dirty play by a sorry player. He don't do nothing. Talib says, come to the game, don't catch no passes. Come to the game, chop guys from the back. He got the same age as me, so when I see his ass in Atlanta, I'm going to beat his ass. It don't matter how it went. He tried to do something dirty, so that's why I'm going to beat his ass. So last week I was lucky enough to stumble across, I've got some real good sources. Went through back channels, was able to pick up a Jets receipt for Darrelle Revis, so I was able to get my hands on that. This week, hot off the presses, my sources have hooked me up with a ticket. The ticket to see the Aqib Talib Harry Douglas fight. Talib Douglas at Todd France's office in Atlanta.
Dates off-season.
No date set, but it says off-season on my ticket.
Yeah.
So at some point in the off-season, $250. Well, it didn't cost me because I knew a guy. But these are going for $250. I might have to put this on SeatGeek or some other great
nice ticket
secondary
too. How
ticketing
did you make
website that
that?
might want to
Yeah.
sponsor us. I don't want to sit there.
Oh,
and
you
get
didn't make it. You found it.
Yeah, I found it. I
You
got it
didn't
for real.
make
So
Real
yeah,
good.
I would love to see Aqib Talib whoop up on Harry Douglas because I think Harry Douglas would not stand a chance against Aqib Talib, who seems kind of like a crazy person.
Let me tell you something about it. If this fight does happen, Aqib Talib coming in at 205 and Harry Douglas coming in at 185, it'd have to be a catchweight
It's a
fight.
catchway, but yeah,
It's a catchweight.
you can't make
bout.
up that
You can't
ground.
yeah,
I would-
you'd have to meet somewhere at 195 or something like
Well,
that.
even if Aqib Talib had to shed some pounds, I think I would still take him.
Bruce
Even if he
Buffer's
went
got to
down
be
a-
there too. Fighting from the blue corner.
Yeah, so I'd love to see a fight break out at an agent's office in Atlanta. So I will be there whenever it happens.
Nice ticket. Good looking ticket. Throw that in the lanyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like Elvis Presley's Blue Christmas?
I do.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go listen to that after the show.
All right, let's get out of here so you can go listen to Blue Christmas. Thanks again to OddsShark for hooking us up with the lines and trends. And thanks again to Nesson.com for sponsoring the podcast. We'll be back again next week.
He is wearing
Ricky
pants.
will be wearing.
You double up.
At
It's cold
least-
out there, as we alluded to. A lot of
Baby,
frigid
it's cold outside.
a lot
It's
of
also
frigid
good,
temperatures,
too.
so
I might put that
he'll,
number 2 after Blue Christmas.
Ricky will be back with at least one pair of pants next week, maybe two, maybe three. Next week,
Got
Christmas.
my long john, so.
Christmas edition next
Those
week.
chestnuts will be roasting.
We'll do a little gift, maybe some gift exchanging.
Now we're talking.
Make sure to go check out the full pics on Nesson.com. We'll see you again next week. Bye, guys.